Australia is emerging as a preferred location for AI data centres. The Financial Review reporting that Anthropic is preparing to make the country its second home for training its AI models ahead of its IPO. The US startup reportedly seeking 1.4 gigawatts of capacity, equivalent to the entire Australian industry's capability as of the end of last year. Let's talk about the opportunities with our next guest. John O'Mahony is the partner at Deloitte Access Economics. Great to have you with us.
Morning,
it's really interesting, the timing of the Anthropic news, of course, but it just sort of adds to the evidence of how much demand there is.
It's already happening now, Heidi. We're already seeing it's not just an opportunity. The scale of investment in data centres in this country is very significant. It's as big as what Australia experienced a decade or two ago through a mining boom. We're going through a data centre boom at the moment. Just to give you a couple of figures, the amount of capital investment in this country that's now going through technology has doubled from 5% to 10% of the total. We had one quarter earlier this year, Heidi, where we had over $10 billion US straight into data centres in this economy. So it's a very significant change for us.
Are you of the opinion that opportunity will be seized upon?
Well, we describe it as being a sliding doors moment for the Australian economy, because there are a lot of strengths for Australia, for investors, whether it's about access to land, about the renewable energy opportunity, the talent that we have in Australia for artificial intelligence and what it means. But we're also aware that investors are concerned about whether or not they will get the approvals in time that they need to seize the opportunity. And of course, Australia is competing with Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, India, to being one of the data centre hubs for the Asia-Pacific region. So with the right policy support and the right conversations with investors, we think this can be the next big economic opportunity for Australia, but time will tell about whether we'll seize it.
Well, it's really interesting. We had a conversation recently with a very well-placed consultant coming from the US who was here for talks pertaining to these opportunities. And there's a pretty kind of bearish view as to whether it will eventuate, because there's a sense of like it's just not going to happen because nobody wants these data centres. There's, you know, NIMBYism, as you will, and that our government is eventually going to have to heed those more populist concerns, right? Is that the biggest risk?
It's the most significant risk is that causes delay. Those are issues that can be worked through, but the question is, will Australia resolve them in time for the investment to happen now? Because if we miss the opportunity, it goes elsewhere, well then the opportunity mightn't be around in 4 or 5 years. What I think will help with that is guidance from the Australian government called the Data Centre Principles. And this is an invitation for investors to say, come and speak to us about how you'll meet our requirements around using renewable energy infrastructure, not putting a burden on local communities, and helping to build the artificial intelligence ecosystem around data centres. And then this country wants that investment. So I think that there are enough messages from government to keep investors interested in Australia.
You talk about green compute, and you mentioned the sort of environmental concerns. A lot of the concerns at the moment globally is about the energy suck, right? Does Australia have the infrastructure capability and the policy framework to be able to address those worries?
We don't have the energy at this stage, but we do have a framework for attracting the investment. So one of the key data centre principles is that we are building out the renewable energy capacity in this country. We think that the data centre boom can help the transition, because by having long-term contracts, it can provide more certainty to renewable energy providers as well. So there is an opportunity there, but there's a coordination challenge for the Australian economy.
Is there an ideal investment model? Are these PPIs that you're thinking of? Is it going to be more private investment? How big a role should the government have in this, do you think?
For government, it's mostly about getting the policy settings right and encouraging the investment. After that, the government already has its state-owned corporations in energy and water who are the right partners for hyperscalers or other investors in data centres to be able to get the energy and water needed for this scale of investment. So we do feel as though there are regulators and state-owned corporations that can participate in that. It's not as though the government has to directly invest, but it has to provide the right policy framework, and it's also got to encourage the investment, because for Australia to compete with other regions, it's going to have to require ministerial level interest in this investment. But we've already seen that before when there have been big investments in Australia, whether it's the Minister for Communications, the Prime Minister, the Treasurer, they've been part of the announcements as well.
I suppose, would it make it more appealing if there was more a public vested interest? Because obviously the criticism of the mining supercycle, for example, oil and gas, talks about tax revenues not benefiting the public purse. Is that an opportunity that structurally the government should make more of here? If you're saying that this is the next big thing comparable to what we saw with the mining boom?
Yeah. Taxation is absolutely part of the conversation. We think the biggest thing for governments to get right, to demonstrate the benefits to the Australian community, is about the broader AI ecosystem. So yes, it's data centres, but what sits around that? Whether it's the submarine cables, the enabling telecommunications infrastructure, and then building an ecosystem with more AI startups in this country, supporting research institutions, attracting talent so that we have the high-skilled, high-wage jobs that data centres can help enable. So it's not just data centres, but it's a whole transformation for the Australian economy.
John, really great to have you with us. It was really insightful. John O'Mahony, who's a partner at Deloitte Access Economics. And we do have more on Australia Ahead every Tuesday at 10:40 a.m. If you're watching here in Sydney, 8:40 a.m. in Hong Kong.